Hey guys, today's video won't be a review, but I'm going to be doing some sort of beginner's guide to 1/6 scale collecting. This is by no means a definitive guide, but I wanted to share some important things I've learned since I started collecting, as well as some ways to save you money. First thing I thought I'd touch on is my collecting origin story. So before I started collecting 1/6 scale figures, I collected Kotobukiya Shoujo statues, and even eventually purchased some bones. I found myself buying pretty much whatever I wanted, whatever I liked, and there was really no theme. And at the end of it all, I didn't connect with many of the characters. I was only buying them because I thought they looked good. This was okay for a little while, and then I found my savings were getting smaller and smaller, and I knew I had to do something. I decided at that point I would only buy one statue a month, but that didn't really last long. When I saw the movie Realization Stormtrooper Invader, I had to have them. These were the first figures I really thought were worth buying because most smaller figures just didn't have the detail I wanted, and I hated seeing joints. When I got home, I found out how articulated they were, and the joints were barely visible. I spent a lot of time that night getting the perfect pose, and I really enjoyed doing it. So after that, I began to do some online research on more articulated figures, and that's where I stumbled upon Hot Toys and other 1/6 scale figure manufacturers. I loved everything about 1/6 scale. The amount of detail and realism they could put into a head sculpt, the attention to detail on the clothing, and the fact that they were larger than your average figure, but not too large. Then I saw the price. I have to admit, I was a little put off. However, I bit the bullet and purchased this guy, the Battle Damaged T and Heart. Immediately I wanted another. This is when I took a step back and said, okay, I know limiting myself to one a month didn't really work last time, so I've got to try something else. What I decided on was only to collect figures from properties that really had an effect on me at some point in my life, most of which ended up being from my childhood. So my focus now is pretty much on sci-fi and action-adventure movies from the 80s, and a few modern post-apocalyptic movies I really liked. As much as I love the Marvel and the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, I will probably never own a figure from those properties because I decided to focus my collection and to keep my costs down. So something I learned pretty quickly was to stay away from eBay. Many of the sellers are charging top dollar for these figures, if not more. I'm not saying you can't get a good deal through eBay. I'm just saying it's very unlikely. In many cases, you'll have to pay taxes if the figure is new, and there could be other fees on top of that that would drive the price of the figure through the roof. You also have to watch out for scammers. If the price looks too good to be true, it probably is. Either it's an outright scam, the figure's damaged, missing parts, or it doesn't include the original box. They usually hide these issues in the item description. So basically my advice is eBay should be avoided unless there are no other options. Some of you may already know that I live in Canada, and not only are the figures getting more expensive, but our exchange rate is horrible. On top of taxes, shipping, and import fees, I'm looking at paying around $400 for a new figure, if not more. Best thing I did was found a Canadian 1/6 scale BST group on Facebook. Everyone I've dealt with so far has been great, and if anyone comes across a sleazy seller, it doesn't take long for him to get booted out of the group. On the flip side of that, if the seller is a good one, there's usually feedback on that too. This is a great practice, which is pretty well the same across all 1/6 scale BST groups. That being said, be sure to always go through PayPal and never choose the gift option. Even if you have to give the seller the extra 4% for the PayPal fees, it's still much better than being ripped off and never receiving your $400 figure. Another thing I can't stress enough is ask the sellers questions. For example, is it new and sealed? And if you're buying a previously displayed figure, is it complete? Are there any issues with the figure? Condition of the box. These are all things collectors should know before they pull the trigger. Please, if you're not 99% sure you're going to buy the figure, don't waste the seller's time and string them along. Now, getting back to the BST groups, most of the members are selling previously displayed figures, but most of these members are in most cases serious collectors. So the figures are usually mint or near mint, and they're pretty good at disclosing any other information. There's nothing wrong with buying a previously displayed figure as long as you know what you're getting and you ask the types of questions I mentioned earlier. Now, you might ask yourself, well, why are they selling the figures? Are they just crappy figures? Are they not the best representation of the figure I can buy? Well, yeah, it's possible. But just do your research beforehand and choose the one that you like the most that's within your price range. A lot of these guys have been collecting for a while, and sometimes they just want to change or have decided to downsize their collection. Just because a newer version of the figure comes out doesn't always mean it's better. Unlicensed figures. Now, these are usually produced in China and basically just don't have the production rights to the line. And this usually means a cheesy character name instead of the actual character's name it was based on, like my Endwalker here and Mad Racer. Quality can sometimes be hit and miss with these, so do your research, but makers like Art Figures, DAM, VTS are usually a safe bet. When they get them right, they're very comparable to major players like Hot Toys, only they're quite a bit cheaper. Kit bashing is also very popular in the 1/6 scale community, and if you've heard the term before but didn't have any idea what it meant, here's my very simple definition of it. So basically, it's taking different parts from different figures or sources to create and improve a figure. It could be as simple as a head swap, to taking clothing, weapons, body parts from multiple figures. It all depends on how far you want to take it. You also might want to spend some time on 1/6 scale forums to learn way more than I could ever tell you here. Some forums I like are Sideshow Freaks and 1/6 Warriors. Hopefully I didn't bore you guys too much, but the most important advice I can give you is do your research, don't collect what you can't afford, and don't take collecting too seriously. Being too serious just sucks the fun out of it. As always, like and or subscribe if you like the video, and have a good one.